Jenny.
Yeah, welcome. Good morning and welcome to Wombs with a View, Maternal Musings with Jenny and Mika, Jenny and Sylvia and Mika. What is going on today?
We're all
Welcome.
here.
We're all here, and we've called today the birth baton passing episode because if you have read the description of the show today and maybe some of the previous posts, we're having a little reorganization of our show, Wombs with a View. And you've seen us all together before, for sure. You've seen us with our colleague Ida as well. So Sylvia is passing the baton to Mika. So welcome, Sylvia and Mika. We wanted to chat today about positive birth. It was actually supposed to be the power of birth. And then we're like, hey, Sylvia and Rock the Cradle's tagline is actually the power of positive birth. So Mika, I'll let you say a little word and then we'll pass the baton back to Sylvia so she can let us know where she's going.
So I'm just going to say I'm grateful and happy to be here. And thank you, Sylvia, so much for inviting me to jump in and host with Jenny. I'm really looking forward to it. So happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you could take this because Jenny and I have been doing this now for about a year almost, I think. If you go on the video section of our Facebook page, Wombs with a View, you'll see all of the videos there, and we have a YouTube channel. And it's just been such a great experience. But I'm lacking time these days, and it's such a great show with a great title. We couldn't let it drop, right? We couldn't let that just disappear. So I was like, who could take over from me? I'm going to still be a guest once in a while, I hope. You know, that's my hope. So I wasn't going to come on today, and then it was like, well, why am I not coming on to say goodbye to everybody? Good formal goodbye, you know. But anyway, I'm so happy that we could be here together.
Yeah.
And definitely talking about the positive birth. I mean, that is just what we're all about.
So why don't you, Sylvia, since you're speaking now anyway, why don't you kind of let us know why that became the tagline for your business, Rock the Cradle? What does the power of positive birth mean for you and for your clients?
Yeah, and it's funny, it didn't show up right away when I was setting up my business. You know how some of these things grow organically with time and with experience. And it was a few years into my business where that idea of, you know, coming out of your birth, feeling like the rock star, feeling so good and on a high. And that's what I experienced every time. And there's part luck to it. The stars aligned and I was well supported. And then I was like, you know what, that power, when you have a positive birth, doesn't mean that your birth went the way you wanted it to go. But when you come out of there feeling positive about it, you just start your journey as a mom and as a parent on such a different plane. And that is where that started to come out, in different ways we can have positive birth, and as doulas supporting new families before, in pregnancy and in birth and in afterwards. So it even became the power of positive birth, but, it really extends into parenting as well, right? It's all related. And it's funny, the more we repeat things, our clients come back to us and say, I had such a positive experience, so they're using those words and going into it with, feeling positive. I think that's so important. So that's where that came from. And I think we all resonate with that too, as parents and having had different birth experiences. None of us, I don't think our plans went as planned.
Yeah, our birth plan. We always say it's a bit of an oxymoron. We still need to know where we would like to go, what our birth wishes are. The thing that came to my mind as you were speaking, Sylvia, and it's something that we teach in your Rock the Cradle classes, and Mika and I teach with hypnobirthing, is informed consent. And we see many examples of how a birth can come out in a way we didn't expect, but how those moms walk away from the birth feeling incredibly empowered because they were a part of the decision-making process, because the nurses and doctors and doulas and everybody around them, they made sure to ask questions to those people and understand what was happening, that because a birth may end in an emergency cesarean does not mean that woman walks away feeling powerless by any means. We have very visibly seen the opposite. And there's actually studies showing that, you can walk away from a perfect unmedicated vaginal birth and not have that powerful feeling versus as we mentioned, maybe having a surgery and still feel like, wow, I really rocked that with that belly birth. So.
Oh yeah, I think we see that all the time. Mika, I think as a birth doula, having on in our experience as serving families, we see that all the time. People going in with these ideas of how they expect it to go, and it doesn't go that way, but coming out still feeling very, very strong, very empowered. One of the stories I tell all the time is one client. She went. We were at the birthing center, and then 36 hours, if not longer, later, it ended up at the hospital, but then also ended up as a cesarean. And she speaks very positively, like what a great experience. And she was held, she was supported by everyone across the board. And I think that's where we really see the potential of how things could, play out. And, it doesn't always play out that way where everyone feels supported, but that's our goal. Mika, you probably have a lot of anecdotes as well.
Yes, and just last night I was teaching one of our hypnobirthing classes. It was actually the last one for this session, and one of our students there, when I asked what was the most or the biggest takeaway from the classes, and then she said how informed consent actually translated into informed choices. So knowing my options, understanding, having knowledge about what is happening and what my options are, that's a huge, huge, empowering, powerful understanding to have as you step into birth. So not just following the medical team and what they have to tell you, but also having all the tools to ask the questions, all the information to know that there's more than one way that this can actually go in. And that gives confidence.
Yeah.
And confidence is
it's
key.
reminding me, Jenny, of with your kids, teaching our kids question everything, right? But we don't necessarily live in a society that teaches that. And we teach that in our classes is question. You can get a second opinion if you're, not feeling okay with what your caregiver, whoever that is, midwife, doctor, family doctor, whatever, you can, dig deeper, get, research, and that's the informed choice. What are the choices that we have? And you have lots of choice when you are pregnant. We don't think we do, but there are choices to be made. I know, and first time mom, I didn't know my choices. Jenny, did you know your choice in your for like as I guess now that we're really well versed in the subject, I didn't know a lot.
I think I didn't feel that power that we're trying to encourage people to follow. I didn't assume that power, at least. I always blame my age. I was only 26, and that might have been part of it. But I definitely, if I were to give birth again, I will tell you I would step into a place of power, because we know what we know now. And I was just sitting here wondering, of all the examples we see in the media and in movies, why even the show title of the power of birth, like this might be confusing to some people, because what we see on TV and movies and what we probably hear from the majority of women and families around us is it's not a powerful experience. It's quite scary and intimidating, and I think a lot of people walk in kind of feeling very, very vulnerable. I don't know. Do you guys have any examples in the media of movies or I mean, there's certainly positive birth stories we can read, but have you guys seen anything in mainstream that would allow people who've never given birth before to assume it was a powerful experience? Because I can't think of anything.
Not lately. I'm actually watching some stuff and I'm like, whoa, this is so far from the truth. It's not this huge emergency event where everything is so painful and you just need somebody to rescue you, which is kind of how it's showing up in the series and in the movies, especially with the first time birth. There's time. There's lots of time.
What about Call the Midwife? Did you guys watch? Or I know, Sylvia, you gave me all of the books, but in the image, remember you gave me the books for Christmas. I have the whole collection. But do you see the visuals in that show? Is that something that people could watch to feel inspired, or is it a little?
Yeah, it's not like American television. It really is. There are some stories that are not as positive, but I think it's really, really well done. Really well done. And yeah, I really like that show. And it does show natural birth, because in the 1950s, most of these women, at least at the beginning of the show, had the midwives. And then they do show women starting to go to the hospital and getting, care by the doctors. And it's, you see that evolution. in the 50s in East London. And I lived in that area, so it's very cool for me to watch that show. And, you know, laughing gas. I was like, they use laughing gas in the show. Like, look at it. It can work. But, you know, yeah. So that would be one show. But most of them, you're right, Mika, they're like these screaming fests of drama, right? I mean, if you're a TV producer, what do you want? Do you want to just show a 24-hour drawn out birth
where everybody's calm and
dramatic,
peaceful?
right? Yeah.
Well, it does mean that when we have access to those videos, like we show a number of videos in hypnobirthing classes that are the total opposite, where much of the time there's not a whole lot of movement going on, and that doesn't look like this experience of power that's in my mind. Actually, it doesn't mean that laying there is you know, not being powerful, but it looks very calm and very peaceful, and the opposite of screaming at the top of your lungs, that's for sure.
Which is not helpful, really, and that's part
screaming
of what we
at the top of your lungs. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
When we tense the jaw and everything goes tense, our pelvic floors react immediately. So,
Sylvia, could you give us an example of a noise, since you're here and you're a lovely voice actor? Could you please, for the large crowd observing us today and who will listen in the playback, could you give us a little sample of what sounds that would be better than screaming at the top of your lungs, please?
And don't you teach these in hypnobirthing, ladies?
No, we don't actually. No.
What do I teach? Well, like Mika was saying, you know, let's go to the what you know, when we're clenching the jaw and you know, that is women in distress. Oh my God, come and save me, help me. Like that is not as powerful. But you know, when we're going low, and I always like to, you know, think of it as there's a long string holding the pelvic floor all the way up to the top of your head. And we want to keep it nice and loose, and it's all related, right? So when the jaw is nice and relaxed, and I learned this in music school with singing, you know, if the jaw is, everything's relaxed and everything is well supported, and it's there you go.
Thank you.
It's kind of like the yoga at the end, but very ohs and ahs and low sounds.
And an opening of the throat and just sending all of those vibrations downward.
Down. Yeah. And I remember in my second birth, I didn't make much noise in my first, but my second birth, I started doing, oh, and I said to the nurse, I sound like a cow. Oh my gosh. And she said, that's so good, honey. Baby's coming. Just keep going. I'm like, okay. But they just came out of me, right?
And those cow noises bring in oxytocin, because when we are singing, when we're making these low voices and noises, oxytocin is secreted in the brain. So it's a feel-good kind of noise that helps progress labor, which is so awesome. So
but heaven forbid, you know, we make those noises in birth. People are so self-conscious, but really when you get to that point, often you've blocked everything else. You're just in your birth bubble. That is our wish, you know, trying to get you to that space where you don't care what's happening. And
we mostly get there, and you'd be surprised, even if you are in a hospital and there are people around, and even if they're not. I always tell my students, my best experience in my hospital birth was myself and my husband in the shower, door closed, water going, and we were both making those noises. I had him behind me, the sound vibration of his chest on my back, and I can't say the entire labor, which was longish, was painless. I will never say that, but those moments were blissful. There was not even anything, and I was in serious contractions at that moment, and it was bliss, and that was the most powerful moment of my birth experience. So yeah, those sounds are a perfect example of assuming your power in birth.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, and I think some people, you know, you may not make those sounds. People like, oh my God, you know, you may not make them. You may just breathe the whole time, or you might make more sounds, as long as I think you're feeling really, really good and you feel that you've got this. And it's not that panic and that, the hysterics, right?
And figuring out the environment that supports that helps you feel safe and seen and heard. When we choose our doctor, our midwife, the place that we're going to give birth, there's always things that we can learn about how to create that powerful environment so we feel held and supported. And that goes such a long way. And the hospital room can be a powerful birth room. So it's really bringing some objects from home, putting on music, creating that ambience that you love, that you feel good in. That's really powerful. And then those endorphins kick in.
The music too is an interesting thing to talk about, because I think a lot of times we have, myself included in it, although my home birth, I gave birth to, do you guys know Jack DeJohnette? He's a jazz drummer who has this album called the Something of Om. And it is fantastic. I'll put the link in there, and it's an hour-long track. And back 8 years ago, it was the CD that I ordered, and my CD never showed up for my home birth. And I was so, I really wanted my CD. The midwives on their way into the birth found it on my doorstep, and they came in, and I listened to that on repeat. It's beautiful, and it's super chill. That said, sometimes we don't need that chill yoga music during our birth. If people like to listen to whatever, it could be techno, it could be dance music, it could be whatever it is. So I always encourage people, when they're making their playlist, bring a variety, because just like you might think you want to be in the water, you might think you want to be massaged, you might think all of these things, you might think you want yoga music, but really you just want Metallica. I don't know.
Yeah. There was a doula at one point shared a story in a group, and she said that her clients were pushing out the baby to some heavy metal, and I was like, oh wow, talk about powerful, right? I mean, they just loved it. You got to be you, right? It's and it's all about changing things up, and we don't know what we're going to want in that time, so being prepared. Yeah, and Mika, you made a good point, right, about I think it's doing your research. Where will you be safe? Because there are some people that the idea of a hospital, it doesn't resonate well with, but I mean, 98% of births here in Quebec are in hospital. And some people want to get in the birthing centers and can't get in. So they end up at the hospital. So, how do we maneuver? I think it's researching and really being informed before, in the early stages of pregnancy. That is when you have the chance to do so, because afterwards we get a lot of calls at 30 weeks. Oh, I'd really love to have a midwife now, and I'm like, well, get yourself on the list, call them up. But, the chances are a little slimmer.
So the power of choosing your birthplace is early on in pregnancy. That's such an important thing to understand. You need to pee on the stick and call the birthing centers. That's basically... That's what's going on. I have a returning client now. That's what she did, and she got into two birthing centers. Yeah, wow. And she got to choose. Speaking of choices, which one she wants to go to.
And if that does become an issue, is we really encourage people to harass is not the word I want to use, but call back often, because people are often transferred from birth center to high risk with the doctors, and spots open up at 32, 30, 34 weeks, and you can be surprised. Yeah, do you have Mika? Because you are the one of the three of us that has been actually physically to births, even in this COVID time. Often Mika has been the person that has been chosen over the birth partner, because you only get one. So Mika's been around births. Do you have any anecdotes of powerful births that you might be able to share as we wrap up today?
Wow, one recent one where the affirmation became "holy fuck." That was quite the birth. And sacred sexuality, holy fuck, makes so much sense. And our babies are, when we have sex, when we make our babies, it is a holy, sacred moment for many of us, can be. And also when they're born. So that kind of connects. Babies come from love and are born with love, and bringing back that intimacy into the birth can be so powerful. And you were talking about going into the bathroom. And I often tell my clients, if you want to be alone for a while, if you're feeling that you want those moments of intimacy and you don't know who's going to walk into the birth room at the hospital, take that time, go into the bathroom, close the door. Everybody needs to knock there. That's your private place. And find, if it feels good for both of you, find time to kiss and to be intimate and close and feel the love, feel the holy fuck that can sometimes show up in a birth.
Yeah. Do you hear that, folks? The advice was go make out in the bathroom. You're welcome.
I can't say, Mika, that was my top of my list in my births, but yeah, I've seen it though, and it's beautiful. I've seen it. Yeah, using
We
it
had
as a
students bring
tool.
up this idea. Yeah, we had, where the heck were we? I feel like we're always talking about birth together. It was like in the last 24 hours, somebody brought up orgasmic birth, and they were like,
Yes.
"Whoa, what is this thing?" And it's a thing. It is a thing, and it is all about the connection of the couple, of the parents, and
you see it as an
it's
option.
pretty awesome.
If it shows up for you and it's relevant for you, it's not something that has to happen, but it's been really taken out of the equation at the hospitals, I feel. And we can reclaim that and figure out the way that we can feel comfortable if sensuality and intimacy is something that shows up for us during labor.
Well, this is why staying home as long as you can is so important, because when you're in your own home, in your own bed, and your partner's there, your doula might be there with you, supporting you at home if she can't join you at the hospital. Lots of things, like that can happen at home, and you'll feel more comfortable as well. In a hospital setting, it's more sterile, but it's still, just know that it's still an option. You just have to.
And when we talk about natural ways to bring contractions on and to keep contractions going, this is one of the best ways, right? So yeah, close the door. There's lots of room in that little hospital bed.
I had one family that I was working with were very intimate, and they didn't mind who was there. It was, they were, like you said, Mika, making out. She would just grab him and give him this, these big kisses, and the dad had his shirt off, and the mom as well, and I think her mother was in the corner. And then the doctor at one of the hospitals, he was the head of the hospital. He just peeks in, and then he like, "Oh, it's one of these births, isn't it? I'll be right here." And then it was, very light, but they were fine with it. It was that kind of, but wow. It was. They don't see that as often as perhaps in the birthing centers.
For lots of reasons, but I guess that's what we're saying. The whole point of the show is to not be afraid in any of this, and to claim your power, and however that shows up for you in your birth. Really, what can you do that is more of an amazing experience than give birth? I don't know what is more powerful than actually giving birth, and we're superheroes after that. We're superheroes.
Well, Jenny and you and I have always said that we would have made great surrogates because we love giving birth, and I could have birthed another 10 babies. I just didn't want to raise them. but yeah, it's just one of my, I have very, very fond memories of birth, and I feel very lucky that I have that. I have those memories. Yeah. And going back and tapping into that feeling when I need to feel powerful. Yeah.
And I think so many people, because of it's not really a flukish experience, but it kind of is. I mean, you went in there with not really necessarily knowing a whole lot, and because of your positive experience and how things unrolled, you founded your company, Rock the Cradle, and then all of these people that the three of us and Ida and other doulas we've had in the past have supported have benefited from that. So, who knows what would have happened if that wasn't your experience.
I had doulas, right? And that was the turning point for me when I left my job. And I was like, what am I going to do now? My job was abolished. And then I was like, I'd been just thinking about the experiences. I was in I just had given birth to 2 babies. I was pregnant with my 3rd and having another doula on board. And they, it's never a guarantee that your birth is going to go super well just because you have a doula, but the information that they give, the support I felt, yes, there was luck in the timing was really good. They weren't long and drawn out births. They were not induced. So there's that luck part. But yeah, I think, and that made me think that, wow, more women have to have access and know that they have the options, and that a doula and the support means it's a big piece of the puzzle. So I am thankful for the 2 of you being part of Rock the Cradle, and with our colleague Ida and all the lovely doulas who have come through our door before. There are many of you, and that support our clients. Like I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just passing the baton to Mika for this show. You can still reach out to Rock the Cradle, where Mika is serving our clients, and Jenny is our very, very busy postpartum doula these days. The postpartum side of things. It's like people are waking up to understand, their parents are not here to help them. Families are not here to help them. So they've been reaching out and calling. Mika is supporting virtually and in person when she can. And so is Ida. And we are still giving prenatal classes. Mika's teaching our April session. I know they've got the two of you have your hypnobirthing classes as well. So thank you everyone for joining me all these weeks for the last year. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience, Jenny.
Thank you. And yeah, you guys will definitely see Sylvia on the show again soon. She has all kinds of, she brings that light that we're not ready to give up at the moment. She'll be back. And thank you so much, Mika. As if we don't see enough of each other, Mika and I now have one more place where I talk to Mika more than I think I even speak with my children. So as you can see at the bottom, we have hypnobirthingmontreal.com. We have a new session starting in 2 weeks. And look, I even have this handy little thing. Oh, no, that's not right. That didn't update. It's not Thursday. It's not Thursday. It's a Monday. Monday the 19th, our session starts up again. And Sylvia's business, sovibrant.com. And then for those of you who are looking for doulas and doula services, as she mentioned, you can still join us at rockthecradle.ca. So we plan to be here every 2 weeks at this same time. And yeah, really look forward to seeing all of you again. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.